All right. Well, we're going in here to season two, and you're not only one of the leaders in trans representation in media, but you're also bringing the Asian trans experience to the landscape, and that's long overdue. The community section just that needed to shine. Now that you're in your second season here on the L Word, have you noticed any changes to the landscape of trans storytelling?
That's a really great question, and it's I appreciate what you said. It's a massive honor to be able to provide at least one voice of a person who happens to be trans and Asian. I think something that I think is so important is like obviously there's so many experiences of being trans and Asian, and my experiences are also very different than Micah's. In terms of have I noticed the change, I feel like I have. Something I am not the only one who refers to Pose, but I think in terms of a mass production with primarily trans people, and specifically Black and brown trans women, like has really, in my mind, revolutionized the way in which like trans stories can be told. I feel like that's really been a huge game changer. Since we aired season one, I think part of there is the element of COVID and like things being released, and I'm sure that there are more. I would hope there are more roles of trans masculine folks that were cast, and maybe we just didn't see as many because of COVID and like productions and releases being pushed. I feel like I've seen more conversations, at least, around trans masculine representation, and one of those pieces is also Disclosure that came out in between and helped me kind of understand too more of where we've been, particularly as trans masculine folks, and hopefully where we're going. Sorry, yeah, that's it.
Well, without spoiling too much
Yeah.
or anything, I guess I should say, what's in store for Micah this second season on the L World?
I'm really excited about Micah's arc this season. I think last season we got to see what it was like for him to explore and lean into what it means to be vulnerable in a way that he wasn't familiar with. As we saw, he primarily was hooking up with people. He wasn't opening up in a way that was conducive to an ongoing relationship, intimate relationship, emotionally intimate relationship. And so I think we pick up in the sense that we see Micah exploring more of that vulnerability. I think learning to trust his feelings and the path that he's already been on for the last few years of his life and continuing to go on. And I think like what's so beautiful to me is that he gets to explore it in such an honest and like, I think, intuitive way that we don't often see in terms of trans masculine representation and like trans masculine queer folks as well. So I'm super excited. I know it's super vague, but I think otherwise it would give away too much.
Gotta tease, you gotta tease.
Yeah.
Will we get to see more of Micah as a social worker and all the challenges that brings?
We do get, and obviously Morgan will jump in, I think, if I give away a spoiler, but we get to see Micah in his element a bit. I think we established that he was a social worker. We knew that he was an adjunct professor, but we get to see a little bit more of what that means for him and that facet of his life that means a lot to him. And I think that a lot of his social work beliefs and I think practices really do blend with his interpersonal relationships.
You're so open about your experience as a trans man in America. What or whom do you draw from for that bravery?
Well, thank you. That's really kind of you. I think a lot about, it's impossible to kind of move around particularly this industry without thinking about the transmasculine folks who came before me. Like I look up to Brian Michael Smith so much, who's on season one as well and is on Lone Star. I feel like, there's Scott Turner Schofield and, Ian Alexander's a transmasculine person. And I feel like those were kind of the three main that when I was starting to come to the industry that I was more primarily aware of. And there are way more transmasculine folks in various parts of the industry, not just on screen, but writing as well. Thomas Page McBee is on our writing staff, who also wrote on Tales of the City. And it's such an honor to kind of be welcomed into the world as a transmasculine person and be seen by other transmasculine people. So I think about, in terms of the work, I think about them a lot. And I also think about obviously like Laverne Cox, who, and I think again, was one of the most mainstream trans people. By mainstream, I mean more like in mass media that we have seen uplifted. and the way in which she uses that platform and that privilege. And it's, again, so many people want disclosure that I was like awestruck, and we went to Sundance, and I just remember being like, I was fanning out in front of other people as well. I was like, oh my gosh, I get to be in an interview with, or like in photo shoots with Jen Richards and like, Alexandra Gray. And it was just, it's incredible. I really looked at them in terms of what it looks like to be honest and open and authentic in this industry in particular.
Well, Micah might find himself in the middle of roommate drama this season after, that cliffhanger with Sophie and her
Mm-hmm.
love triangle. Is Micah team Sophie Finley or
Ooh,
team Sophie Danny?
that is a really hard question, and I don't think any of the answers would really necessarily be a spoiler. I think Micah is team happiness. To be honest, he cares about all of them in such a they. I think that's one of the things about when you're in a friend group, you have such a different relationship with each person. And so, with Sophie, it's a lot more fun. And also, we saw last year, her threatening to beat up Jose for him. And like with Danny, they have more of a history there, and I think a past that they can draw from. And with Finley, it's just very fun, and like she's like this like puppy dog, all So I think he's team um, happiness and honesty and safety.
Well, we know season 2 is going to be super special. Are there some episodes that you can tease that fans should look out for? Not moments, but
Sure,
episodes.
sure. I think once we kind of dip into the second half of the season, so like 5 and 6 on, was super fun. And I'm really looking forward to looking forward, and obviously as like somewhat nervous to hear what fan reactions are and what viewer reactions are. We really explore some really special and important topics with Micah. And I'm thrilled. I'm so excited.
In the last year, we've seen a rise, though, in anti-trans bills landing on our governor's desks across the nation. And are there any plans to kind of touch on that, or either, like the trans struggle this season?
Sure, that's a great question. I think, one of the beautiful parts around this show is that we kind of are on this edge of educating without preaching. That I think, which there's nothing wrong with more of a preaching approach. I think ours is a little more subtle. And I think that we do kind of at least introduce people to what it might be to be a trans person in the world. And I hope this is something that people can like use as a launching pad to learn more about the policies and the legislation that is being discussed and passed and has already passed in the last year or so around trans folks, trans healthcare, trans bathroom usage, trans sports.
What's next for you after the L Word season 2 coming up here? Do you have any other projects you've been recently busy working on?
I've got a couple of things I'm working on. Yeah, can't really say too much about it, but I'm excited. I don't know. What's happening after. Maybe we'll see. I think again, it's been such an amazing ride, and something that the show has taught me in my personal life too is to expect the unexpected, and I hope that it brings everybody joy and success.